Hey everybody, Quilt Nation, Quilt Marine here. We're back to build a bind. All right, so we've put our border on our spider web quilt and we need a bind. So we're gonna build a bind. I like building binds. It's no problem if you just went with a solid color bind or whatever you wanted to do for a bind. But for some reason, building a bind, it just keeps me into the quilt and it keeps me attached to the quilt in some ways, okay? So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna lay out 2.5-inch strips. All right, 2.5-inch strips lengthwise, okay? So I try to stay with the trend, like, you know, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, in that technique, okay? If you can't do that, no worries. There are no rules here, okay? No rules, all right? No quilting police allowed, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pick them up and I'm gonna sew them together, all right? 1/4-inch seam, all right? And we're gonna iron them out, okay? And then what we'll do is once this all is in one sheet, once we have this all in one sheet, then we're gonna break it down. Okay? I'm gonna get a true cut on an edge. I'm gonna make a true edge here. And then I'm gonna measure in 3 inches. Okay? And I'm gonna cut 3 inches, cut 3 inches, cut. And because I'm gonna fold that in half to 1.5 inches, and that will be my bind. A 1.5-inch bind. Okay? I probably might just go with 2 3/4 to make a 1 1/4 bind. We'll see. All right, we'll see what happens. But this is the technique I use. And once I have the length that I need, we're gonna go ahead and throw it on. Well, we'll put our quilt together, and then we'll put our bind on. You'll see the final product, and then our spider web quilt will be done and ready to ship. So when we come back, we'll start attaching our strips. Okay. Okay, so we've put our strips on, all right? I've got various sizes from 2.5 to 2, and I got a 3 here that was a piece of the border. It doesn't matter because we're cutting this up anyway, okay? And now that I've got them attached, okay, let's show the other side. I'm just gonna iron them out, okay? So what I'll do is, on the light ones, I'll iron them out to the dark sides, okay? Every light side I'll iron out to the dark side. Now, let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, let's start in the middle with the black so it's easier to explain. Okay, so got my iron. I got a light here. So I'm just gonna iron it out to the dark side. No worries. Okay. Now some darks may be a little light, okay, but we're just gonna stay with the same technique, okay? Then I'll skip over the black, go to the other light side. Iron it over to the dark side, okay? And that's what we'll do. We'll iron that out like that. Let's see what it looks like on the other side. See that? Okay, so we're gonna iron it out, and then I'm gonna come back to the table and we're gonna cut it up, all right? Okay, so we've added a bunch of strips, okay? So there's a bunch of them on here, all right? So obviously I'm way bigger than my cutting mat here. All right, and look at this. They're all at different lengths. You see how? Because these are all just what I have laying around. So this is what happens when you do that. You have a bunch of excess sticking off. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fold it in half so I can get a better cut. And I'm gonna cut along the shortest edge right here. But I'm not gonna get rid of these. All right, anything that's salvageable, I'm just gonna reattach together. Okay. So let's go ahead and fold this in half here. All right. So I remember my little, I guess the DNA strand looking one is the shortest one. So let's fold this in half. So we put it on the mat and cut it, all right? So we're actually on the mat while we cut. All right, I'm sure there's other techniques to use, but this is the technique we use in my quilting room, okay? All right, let's lay this out here. Okay, let's go ahead and cut this off here. Get rid of these little pigtails we got going on. Not wasting. Don't want to waste, okay? Get a nice little cut. All right, so don't throw that away. You're gonna need that later. All right, So now we have a nice edge. Now we have a nice edge. Let's get our little measurement. We're gonna go, all right, to get, let's do a 3-inch. Let's go 1.5-inch bind. No? Yeah, let's do a 1.5-inch bind. Okay, so we're gonna put it on the line here. I'm gonna go 3 inches, all right? 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna cut on the 29 line there. 29, 29. We're gonna cut, okay? All right, I'm just gonna keep continuing that, and you'll get it, you know, after we get all our cuts, then we're gonna attach them end to end. All right, we'll attach them end to end and then fold them over, and we'll have our bind going. Once we do our fold, we'll have a bind, a 1.5-inch bind. Which is kind of big, but it's okay. All right, that's where we're going. All right, let's go ahead and keep cutting here. All right, let's make sure our edge is true here. All right. Here. 2, 3. Okay, so once we have these cut, all right, so now I have these leftovers, right? So all I'm gonna do with these is reattach them and try to get a 3-inch cut, all right? All right, so with this, I can get 3 inches, right? And then I'm just gonna add it into the pattern, that's all. 3. No big deal. We want to use all that we have. Okay. 2, 3. We're going to get 3 out of that. All right. So now we have our cuts. Now what we're going to do is just going to add them end to end. Okay? Just to make a bind, all right? So what I'll do is I'll put these together. And now on these, you don't need to do the 45. You can, but as you can see, the pattern is vertical. So we want to stay in that theme. So I'm just gonna attach them end to end, and we'll get a nice bind, and then we'll be ready to put it on to our spider web quilt, okay? So when we come back, you'll see that I've attached these all together. I'll fold them and iron it in half, and our binder will be ready. So we're gonna be putting this thing together, okay? Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and remember, it's only fabric and it's only thread.